Hello and welcome to episode number 81 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, spinning, sewing, basically also fiber crafts that I feel like. And I've been doing a few crafts. I've also been continuing working on the projects that worked on last time. But last time I was on a finishing kick. I really wanted to finish all of the old whips. Well, that went out of the window. I have suffered from compensational Cast-on-itis or something like that. So let's get right into the contents of this episode. Let's quickly mention my outfit first. So today I am wearing my Cityscape Tank, which is a pattern by Liza K. Ross. And I knit this out of Lana Grossa cool wool. In the beginning of this summer, so you may have seen it. It's just a few episodes back, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago. I had just finished this project, and it's really nice and warm for the cooler autumn weather that we have here. And I have topped it off with Dusala Cardigan by Osa Tricosa. This is just a plain Dusala without anything special added to it. And I think it's the first Dusala that I ever knit. But this one is made out of hand-spun yarn. So I purchased some fiber from Spinspool a few years ago, and she didn't have enough merino fiber. Neither did she have enough BFL fiber to spin a sweater's quantity for me. But I decided to just pair them because they were dyed the same, but they were different fibers, obviously. And I just made it a 50-50 blend of both fibers for this cardigan. So this cardigan is knit out of a 2-ply yarn, and 1 ply is 100% merino and the other ply is 100% BFL. Makes 50-50, I think, assuming that the plies are approximately the same width, which is not always the case when I'm spinning. Anyway, so let's get into the projects that I've been working on, and there have been quite a few, so I'm a bit overwhelmed, but let's just get on with it and start somewhere. So let's start with the Latch-Hook project, which I finally finished. That means I finished the Latch-Hook part. This is obviously not a pillow or cushion yet, but it is done. So the penguin is here. And I just need to find a back for this thing and just finish it and make it into a pillow. I also recently purchased some wool fillings, just like the wool that is shorn of a sheep, but that is not really the nice quality that you would want for spinning with it. So I thought maybe I could use that to fill up a pillow and another project that I will get to in a bit. But when I purchased it, I purchased 100% pure wool, and I did not really realize that that meant it also had not been washed off the sheep yet. So it was like with all the grease and the lanolin and also just some dirt still stuck to it. So I'm in the process of washing it in tiny bits, because it is 1 kilogram of wool, which is quite a lot to wash all in a tiny bucket, because I am just washing it tiny bit by tiny bit, because that I have these tiny buckets that I use to wash wool in, and working on that. So and then I also need to find some kind of fabric to be the back side of this. I'm not planning on knitting or crocheting or anything special. I just want to use some fabric and sew it to the back side of this, because I think one fluffy side is enough. Anyway, so that's my Latch-Hook project all done. I do also have my Latch-Hook needle here. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's kind of like a crochet hook, but it has this tiny latch, I guess. attached to it that helps you make these kinds of knots for the project. So yeah, it's finished now. This project was made by holding 6 strands of yarn together for each knot, so it was quite tedious to do. And 2 of these strands were made out of this yarn, which is Borgo de Pazzi Amore 160, I think. Yes, 160. Here I have the label of this orange one. Oh no, I think this is the label of the black one. Whatever, so the colorway number that you might be able to read here does not match this yarn. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's all the same kind of yarn. And I paired it with 4 strands of this sock yarn, which is a Jawoll Superwash solid. It's just a sock yarn. And this one actually comes with a reinforcement bobbin in the center, but I have not used reinforcement yarn. And I know that at my local knit group there's someone who actually does like to knit very tiny doll garments with the very thin reinforcement yarn that comes along with this. So I sometimes pass on my bobbins of reinforcement yarn to her so that she can enjoy knitting her teeny tiny dolls garments and such. Anyway, so yeah, obviously I did not hold these 2 together because these are not the same color, obviously, but yeah. Yeah, and there's just 7 colors of these, but all these colors just have numbers, so I thought it would not be that interesting to share the exact numbers. I wish I could refer you to my Ravelry page where I usually store my details about what yarns and colorways I use exactly, but because this is a Latch-Hook project, I don't think I have a Ravelry page for it, because, you know, Ravelry kind of supports knitting and crochet and maybe some weaving as well, but I also have this problem for my sewing projects. Anyway, so I finished the first of my penguin pillows, and this one was the one that I decided to make and was already halfway before I cast it aside and stopped working on it. But my husband had also started a project, and yeah, he was really just half a row in, so I decided to rip out his work and start cross-stitching his penguin as well, because I made 2 patterns at the time. So this one is the ones that is finished now. I made these patterns myself, so I can just share however much I like them. But there is another penguin that I wanted to make as well, and I decided to just try and cheat a little and do it a quicker way and cross stitch this one. But I'm not really sure that I like how it's turning out, because it feels like there's maybe a bit too much of big gaps going on between the stitches, and I feel like you would be able to see the filling through this pillow quite easily. Also the backside is kind of a mess, but you know, that's what happens when I cross stitch and don't really pay attention to the backside. But this one will be a backside that will be completely covered by a pillow, so I don't think it will matter as much. Anyway, I might decide on adding some additional stitches, like divide the original cross into 4 crosses or something. Like you already have this diagonal thing, and then add a line here and here and here and here, if you get what I mean. But I'm still in the process of trying to decide how thick I want these things to be, because I also don't want it to be too bumpy, because that wouldn't be nice to put your head against, and that would be nice if it's a pillow, you know. Anyway, so let's move on to the next project. I did mention a little bit about sewing. I have been sewing, and I have a project that I really like, because I have been modifying a t-shirt that I've made a lot, but I think it's in the laundry now, so I will save that one for next time, which won't be bad, because you know, I I'm a bit tight for time today because we need to go to a birthday party. Luckily, that's possible again with the restrictions being lifted, and that feels so good. I really hope that we are on the good side of the pandemic now, and I really hope that you are as well. I mean, the situation keeps changing fast, and it's not the same around the world anyway. So then there is another project that I've been working on since last time, and you guys may have seen this one on my Instagram. It was kind of finished-ish. That is, I have not woven in all the ends yet because I'm me and I like to postpone those kind of things. But I have finished my my socks, my BFL nylon socks. I actually do have the label of the yarn here. This is stranded Dyeworks, and this is BFL nylon, 80% BFL and 20% nylon, and the colorway Frostbite. And yeah, I think this is very pretty yarn. I decided to keep this sock plain and simple, as I said last time, but I did decide to add in something that is a little bit special. Like, this ribbing is not your average ribbing. There is a little bit of a lacy detail going on there, which actually made a nice scalloped edge, which I did not anticipate, but I actually quite like it. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. And I well, this was the first sock. I marked it with this little stitch marker, and that says "made with love," and it's a tiny heart, so I like it. Anyway, and there's a bunch of other stitch markers that basically mark numbers of rows, because I am that kind of knitter that counts the number of rows before doing something, because that will match up. So anyway, I did the second sock, but the first one I fitted before I decided to add in the heel on the second one. I don't know if at what stage I was exactly, but I thought the foot was just a little bit on the short side, so I decided to knit the foot like 2 rows longer, just 2 rows, but that made a little bit of a difference because I like the fit of this a lot better. So I decided to go for some sock surgery on this one, and I fear that you will be able to see it here. So I picked up all the stitches on a row here, and then like with 1 row in between I picked up 2 rows and then knit a few and knit extra rounds around from the beginning section, and just added some extra length, and then grafted it all together, and then I made a mess of it. It was really a messy process. I kind of failed doing that. I think in the first round I actually accidentally knit 2 stitches together, and then when I wanted to graft it all together I was 1 stitch short, obviously, and I didn't want to have it 1 stitch short and 1 stitch longer, and then I tried to drop the stitch and fix it, but I don't know, I must also have stitched through the yarn at some point, so dropping it down wasn't that easy. So I ended up with like I anticipated like the sock would have 2 additional ends and then 1 piece of yarn in between, so there should have been 4 extra ends, and I ended up with I think 12. So it was a bit of a messy process, but yeah, it works, it fits, so I'm happy with that. It's not as pretty as I had wanted it to be, because you can definitely see there's a bit of a bump going on here. Maybe on this side it's not as clear, on this side it's a little bit more clear. You can also see where the thread is hanging that I still need to weave in, or possibly trim. I need to figure out how far this one is woven in already before I decide to trim it, and there may be some more ends to weave in. Like this sock definitely doesn't have the start and end tail woven in, and weaving in ends is not my favorite thing to do. So yeah, if I have another project I will happily go for it. So anyway, but yeah, these are kind of finished. They just need a little bit more yeah, their ends woven in, and I don't think I will show them again on this podcast unless I'm going to do some kind of sock recap at some point. I don't know. But for now, I'm not planning on showing these again next time, because really they won't really change. I mean, you guys know that I can weave in ends, I hope, or you don't, and in that case I don't really care. So yeah, that's it for those socks. That was the nice bit of continuing working on a project. I also continued working a little bit on the next Dusala cardigan that I am knitting from a book by also Grossa. But really the only thing that has changed since the last time is that now there's not only a right shoulder but also a left shoulder, or not only a left one and now also a right one. I don't know which one I knit first anymore. But yeah, so there's two tiny shoulder pieces now, and I've picked up and knit across the shoulders now, and I have increased the pattern ever so slightly, but it's still not really possible what the pattern will look like, because I was knitting this because at my local yarn store there is this knit group that I go to, and I need to knit with yarn that's from there. When I'm there, and this yarn I purchased there, it's Chestnut Cabins, Queen of Rain yarn, and it's that Yakkie singles, I think. So yeah, it's merino yak silk hand dyed yarn that I purchased there. But it's just a little bit too complex for me to work on while I'm there at this point. I mean, I think I've actually reached a point where it's starting to become ever so slightly more easy, because I can just knit across the entire pattern, and I don't have to worry too much about counting where I need to do increases and such. Although along the neckline there will be some kind of shaping that will curl in a little bit, which means that I get to increase this pattern section here, because this is like half of the pattern that I want to have there. So it's just not the kind of knit that I knit on while I'm talking with people. So I will continue to knit on this at home at some point. But there were other projects that were calling me, so I kind of parked this aside for a while, and I will do that now too. Anyway, so another project that I have been working on, someone at my local knit group was also knitting on another project that I thought was interesting, and it is the Arne Carlos Christmas balls, which I always thought that I would not be the person to knit this, but then she mentioned that this book was really hard to get your hands on these days. I think she was talking about the Dutch version, because I have no problems reading English patterns. I think it would be strange if I would have an English language podcast here, even though it's not my mother tongue. I am Dutch, and Dutch is my native language, so but I don't really have problems with English. Obviously you will be able to hear that I'm not a native speaker and such, but yeah, reading patterns in English is definitely not a problem for me. Also, I kind of learned how to knit in English, so like my mom and my grandma, they taught me when I was younger, but then when I was a student I kind of relearned how to knit. So anyway, the English book was not so hard to get my hands on. It just took 2 weeks shipping time, which is quite long, because typically if you order these days, it's like you order today and it will be delivered tomorrow, or maybe the day after, but anyway, it arrived to me, and I have been knitting one ball. And actually I started the second one. Let's get to the first one. This is a pattern with a bunch of hearts that I liked. And yeah, I decided to go for a ball with a little bit of glitter. Did anyone of you expect that I would be knitting with glitter yarn? I don't know. I would not have expected myself, but yeah, I decided for Christmas decorations, yeah, we can have a little bit of glitter. And having knitted Christmas balls, well, it just seemed like a nice idea with my son, who's 1.5 years old now. Yeah, I don't want him to grab the Christmas tree or something and then glass balls or whatever shatter down on the floor. Just doesn't seem like a very good idea. We do not actually have a nice big Christmas tree. We have a fake tree, so we use the same one every year, but our tree is like this tall. So we kind of have a tiny tree, but maybe we'll have a bigger one because we live in a house now instead of a tiny apartment. So yeah. Anyway, but I wanted to have some kid-proof Christmas balls. So I know that the other person said, no glitters. My son said, I don't want any glitters. And I was like, haha, but my son cannot say that yet because he's learning how to talk, and saying he doesn't want glitters is definitely not in his vocabulary yet. So mommy gets to decide what the Christmas balls will look like. And I only finished one, and I started the second one, which is, I don't know, I don't think I'm even 2 rows in on this one. But yeah, I wanted to fill this one up first with some filling, which is why I purchased wool that is not completely clean yet. But because it's not clean and dry yet, I cannot fill this one yet, and I want to make sure that it looks nice and round before I knit more of these. So I am knitting these, holding two yarns per color together. You can see there's 2 white strands here, and the red strands are like in the ball, and I'm not planning on actually neatly finishing them because they will be inside anyway, so it's not going to be that much of a problem. And I brought the skeins with me. That is all except for one of the white yarns, but I have a red and a white yarn of the long Jawoll Superwash solid sock yarn, which I've been using a lot lately. I mean, it's in the pillow, and I've knit socks out of this, and I'm knitting a sweater out of it. There's plenty of projects in which I've used this yarn. It's really, I think it's a really nice solid color sock yarn, and I do like my solid colors, so yeah. And I am holding the red one together with this Lana Grossa Berlino, which is viscose and metallic fiber blend, and you can definitely see its sparkle. I think I at least I hope you will be able to see that. This is a full skein because I lost a tag on the other one, but I have 2 skeins of these. And for the white yarn, I'm holding it together with Scheepjes Lizzy, but this one might be a discontinued yarn. At least my local yarn shop cannot get her hands on this anymore. I don't know why exactly. This is 80% viscose and 20% polyester yarn, and it has a really nice glimmer to it. It's not really a silvery color. There's some green tones in there. I don't know exactly how to describe this color if it doesn't show up right on camera, but I thought it was a nice combination of sparkle with the white yarn that I have, which is just another colorway of this long Jawoll yarn. So that's what I'm using, and I like the combination. And I don't know how many balls I can knit out of this because I have not weighed this ball yet, but I'm planning on making the reverse ball of this as well, so that everything that's white will be red and the other way around. So by knitting the reverse balls all the time, I know that I won't end up with too much left over of one color and not enough of the other color to knit another ball. Anyway, so that's, I think, enough about this project. There's another project that I have been working on that I already had started last time, and actually quite a while back, but I have not been showing you guys, and I don't know which of these bobbins I had already completed spinning before last time, but I know that this week I have been spinning some more, and I've completed a second bobbin now, and I'm not sure which one was the first, but it doesn't really matter. This is Wensleydale yarn from Wensleydale Longwool, which is I think a shop from the UK. I purchased this fiber at Edinburgh Yarn Festival quite a while ago, I think in 2019 when I last was there. And I'm planning on making a nice cabled sweater, so 3-ply is the way to go, and I'm planning on making a sweater out of a traditional 3-ply. So I am also working on a third bobbin. But let me tell you guys, I have not been spinning for a while. One of the reasons why is because I put my spinning wheel downstairs in the living room, which I like because if it's upstairs on the attic, I do go there to sew, but for spinning, not so much. I mean, with sewing, I find it hard to also watch TV or something in the meantime, and with spinning, I feel that's very possible. I don't need to watch my hands all the time, whereas while I'm sewing, I definitely want to see what I'm doing, because otherwise I'm just going whoop, in the wrong direction with the sewing. So I like sitting in the living room a lot better, but my son will play with the wheel, and I cannot leave my spinning on there, and so I dismantled my spinning wheel to the point where the drive band was not on it. My drive band is nothing special, but it broke, and I thought that I had replacement rope for it, because I just use a bit of hemp rope, I think, or cord for the drive band of my spinning wheel. Nothing special, but my grandma also did this when she had the wheel that I used to spin with, so I just continued doing the same. But the drive band broke, so I thought I have a skein of this lying around somewhere. Well, I have been searching and searching and searching and searching and spending so much time on searching for the cords that I was pretty sure that I should still have somewhere in our house, but I couldn't find it. So I shifted my search to Google, and Google told me which store had this cord available, which should be plenty to replace any drive bands for the coming, I don't know how many years, but plenty. And it was just €3 for this bobbin, so I decided, well, it's just not worth it searching for longer to find this cord. And I'm also kind of wondering, like, maybe someone asked me if they could, have some cord to hold something together when they were moving something back. I don't know. I really don't know what happened, so I may have given the previous one away in the past. There's some vague memory of me giving away at least a part of some rope, but I'm not even sure if it's this hemp cord or if it was some other kind of cord. I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. I caved in and just decided, well, if I can have another bit of this cord in like 30 minutes and just €3, then it's definitely worth it compared to spending another half day on searching for this rope. So I could finally spin again, which I'm really happy about, because I like spinning, and I don't know why I haven't been doing it for so long, because it's really relaxing. Anyway, it's also good that I have been able to get together with my local spinning group again, because spinning together is even more fun than spinning alone. So it's nice that it's possible again with the restrictions being lifted and such. Even though last time it was already possible to go there, but then my son was ill, so I still couldn't go, which is, well, going to happen quite a few more times, I guess, because he keeps getting the running noses at daycare. But you gotta do something if you want to continue, well, in my case studying, and in my husband's case working, so he needs to be taken care of in the meantime. So yeah, I don't know, it's I'm glad to have a bit of replacement course. And then there are 2 more projects that I've cast on since last time. One that I can be relatively quick about. I have started a new pair of socks, and this is a pair of socks knit out of Patons Kroy, so it's a bit of a thicker sock yarn that I'm used to, so I kind of need to figure out what stitch count I really like for this yarn. But oh my, it's such pretty yarn, and I've heard about this so many times, and then I got it sent as a gift in the mail, which I really appreciate, and I'm so happy to have this in my hands and be able to knit a pair of this. And I also have another set of 2 skeins that I will be able to knit a pair for my husband with, or maybe something for my son. But oh my, it feels really nice and soft, and it will be slightly thicker socks than I'm used to. And these needles are bamboo Jawode needles in size 1, which may still sound like a very tiny needle to knit socks with, but I am a pretty loose knitter, so I usually knit my socks at 0s, or even like 1 or 2 sizes smaller. So I think this will work out well, this combination. And these needles were actually a gift that was sent to me a few years ago, and I don't think I've used them before, because I'm more of a metal needle person, but occasionally the bamboo is very nice as well. So I thought this was a perfect project. This is a project with so many lovely memories attached to it, because both the needles and the yarn has been a gift to me, and that feels very special, and I feel blessed that I can knit this. And obviously it's just a very tiny project so far, but it will grow over time. And as of this week, I have actually been allowed to go to university to study again. So over the past 1.5 years, I've just been studying from home, and I've been allowed to go to university twice. Once because my laptop had completely crashed and I needed to have Windows reinstalled on it, which was a valid reason to go back, because I have a license from the university, and you can only install it there when you have a cable plugged in on their network. So I couldn't do that at home. And the second time, when they decided I needed a drawing tablet, because drawing equations for meetings would be difficult if I didn't have the tablet. And I've never actually used that thing yet, but I do have it because they thought it was important. So that was the 2 times that I went to university. So really, really glad that I can see other people in person again, because, I'm a human being, and while I don't like being in huge big crowds, I do like to see people in person. Anyway, so this is a nice and small project that I can bring with me to knit on during break time, or when I go by train. I have not gone by train yet, because I could drive along with my husband one day, and the other day I went cycling, which I found out was pretty far. I mean, it's 16 kilometers from my home now, so 32 kilometers cycling in a day. And I can tell you I was not in shape, so it took me about 3 hours, 1.5 hour there and 1.5 hour back. So I am going to close the door because I hear that my husband has come home. And then there is one more project that I want to share with you, and it is another Flax sweater, which I'm knitting for my son. And I am just at the point where I am separating for the sleeves, and I'm continuing knitting on this sleeve first, because that just happened to be convenient with the way I was knitting this, because I'm using 4 colors of the Anel Malmedy yarn, which I've used for knitting my blue blanket that I've finished, I think, in the beginning of summer this year. I started it in January, I think. And I had a lot of blue yarns left over, and white, because I used those colors, and I decided to purchase one more skein, a red one, because I didn't really think that there was a combination of more than 3 colors, including the white, that would be a nice combination, and just 3 skeins would not be enough to knit a sweater in my son's current size. So I decided, then I need 4 skeins, and I decided it would be nice if there was a little bit of a pop of color, so I decided to add in some red. I did also have some yellow leftovers from a previous project, and some green ones that I also quite liked to stripe in with the blue and white yarns, but I didn't have enough, and those colorways unfortunately are no longer sold, so I wouldn't have enough of those to make this sweater, so it would be kind of pointless to knit that into this sweater. So yeah, maybe I can knit a pair of mittens or something for my son using that yarn, or that yarn as well. And yeah, it's really one of my staple yarns as well. I really like this yarn. It's a 100% wool, non-specified what breed it is, so it's probably nothing special. I think if it were merino, then they would have mentioned it, and it doesn't feel as soft as merino, but I just know that this yarn is very durable. It holds up, and I have not had any problems with the yarn bleeding and losing its color, so I'm really happy with that. And I first started using this yarn I think in 2015 or 2016, way before I started this podcast. And my favorite shawl that I ever knit, which is the Color Affection shawl by Veera Välimäki, is made out of this, and I made a pair of mittens and a hat. Possibly I knit the hat and the mittens before. I think the mittens were first, then the hat, then the shawl. I don't know. I don't know in what order I knit it, but those are really still my go-to ones. So the only thing that happened there is that they might, like the white does not look as crisp anymore as it did initially, but I think that's more like the dirt that is collected over time, and then the yarn that is that's not holding up. So it's a really nice yarn that I know will hold up, and I've used it in many projects. It's also quite affordable, which is nice, obviously. And yeah, I'm just happy to knit with this. And this is going to be a Flax cardigan. I know that Flax usually has a ribbed panel on the sleeve tops, but yeah, I decided to skip that for the sweater, because with the helical striping going on, it would both confuse me a lot, because in the helical knitting it's not as clear what row you are on exactly. But yeah, I also thought it wouldn't look as nice if, with this number of colors to have the ribbon panel. So I just knitted plain stockinette everywhere, except obviously in a ribbing for the neck, but that doesn't count, right? Anyway, so yeah, I'm really happy that I've separated out one sleeve. I'm just about finishing all of the colors once on the sleeve, so I'm not that far in, and I obviously have not separated the other sleeve yet, but I will be able to do that as well. I think also it's funny because I am knitting this in a helical way. Like I now have a back side and a front side naturally, because this one has 4 rows more on the back side than on the front side, so the neckline in the back will automatically be lifted a little bit, because I took care to split for the sleeve at the right point here. So I'm actually showing you the back side of this cardigan now, or sweater now, I think. Yeah. Anyway, doesn't really matter. I'm happy with this one, and yeah, I think it will be nice if my son has some nice warm sweaters for the winter, because he doesn't have that many that fit him right now, because you know he grows so fast. But I'm really happy to be knitting something for him, which is also why I cast this one on while I already had that many other cast-ons. But yeah, it's just nice to have something easy to work on. And this one is actually knitting at the knitting group friendly as well, because I don't have to pay too much attention to it. I mean, it's just until knit in a round, and now I did need to pay a little bit of attention to where I was going to do the sleeve separation. And I might have to do a little bit of paying attention for the sleeve decreases, because I think they will be in the pattern. I'm not really sure. I also modified the pattern in the sense that I did not go up a needle size to knit the body and the sleeves, because I decided that I liked the fabric the way it looked at this needle size. So I don't know, I need to gauge things a little bit differently, but it'll be fine. I'll manage. I think it's far easier to know like when to do decreases, like maybe every 6 rows or whatever, than constantly be counting color work and such. So anyway, Yeah, I think that's everything that I have had to share with you, and I want to thank you so much for joining me, because it really means a lot that I get to talk with you every now and then. I hope to see you again in about a month's time, maybe the end of this month, maybe the beginning of next month. About a month's time is all I'm going to say for now, because it's October 2nd now, definitely fall, definitely starting to get cooler, definitely starting to be sweater weather. Woohoo! That's it for today. I hope you all had a lovely time, and wishing you all the best, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!